Everybody listening are going to ask the question, do you guys believe in property rights? This dirt belongs to the homeowner. They have the right to do whatever they want on that property.
Well, at its core, I think that's what CodeNEXT and our land development code speaks to. It establishes what those rights are. What can you do with your property? And for years, and I think you probably agree, for years and years and years, the code has biased towards single-family homes. Exclusionary zoning has prevented homes from being built. And I'll use a very easy example. If you look around your neighborhoods or really any neighborhood in town, and you see some place that you think, hey, that might be an affordable place to live, it's a near certainty that it was built before 1984. And that was because that was when the code changed in the same way that we're changing it today with CodeNEXT. And those kinds of sort of small apartment complexes, missing middle housing, fourplexes, and so on, were literally written out of the code at that time. And what went in was really decades of single family homes on the vast majority of lots in Central Austin and the surroundings. So we really, at its core, zoning really does determine what your property rights are and what the value is associated with that.
Sure, absolutely.
My neighborhood in Southwest Austin, for example, is considered built out.
Yeah.
It's right now. But there's still surrounding land that would be considered just green space right now, and some of it's just like retention ponds and things like that. But would that open up the possibility for future development in a neighborhood that is considered built out right now? Could it change the future of a neighborhood like that, for example?
Yes, and I think to a great degree it should. We really need housing everywhere in town. So we don't just need housing in the urban core. We need it there, but we also need it in every neighborhood in every direction. And so what has happened over the past decade or so, as prices here in Austin really have risen dramatically, West Austin has done a very good job over the years of really protecting its neighborhoods. And so this demand has pushed first southward. South Austin, Bolden, 78704 is where I first started building in 2001, and lots cost $85,000. We used to sweat paying $85,000 because we weren't sure if the numbers were going to work, and we'd sell these houses for $325,000, $335,000. And now that same lot is $550,000, and that will never be affordable again. So starting in South Austin and now in East Austin, that price pressure, that wave of displacement, really is pushing outward. And as prices go up, because we don't have any alternatives to really a single-family model that's baked into the code today, prices are rising, and people are forced to go further and further out to find an affordable place to live. And to tie into a question you asked earlier, people really have a right, I feel, to live near where they work. That has all kinds of benefits, quality of life and everything else. So that's why CodeNEXT is so important.
Now, we talked a lot about the residential side, but CodeNEXT also addresses the commercial side as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Problems? Concerns?
There are some concerns, and I think coming back to your question about property rights, yes, one has a right to do what they want on their property to the extent that it doesn't actually negatively impact or diminish the quality of life or the value of the people around them. That's that whole middle ground place,
sure.
right? So there's a lot of in-between policy there that is very subjective, and there's a lot to determine there. And that everything from traffic to the infrastructure, most of our city's still sitting on 4-inch clay pipes, et cetera. So yeah, when it comes to commercial, part of the concern around CodeNEXT that I hear from a lot of folks is the concept of form-based code as opposed to Euclidean zoning. Now that's really jargony already.
Please explain.
So what we have right now.
That word's ever been uttered in this building.
Yeah, I bet you it is.
Yeah.
So the terms we're talking about, single family or commercial or industrial use, all of these are use-based zoning designations. And form-based code, which CodeNEXT has introduced in a hybrid, so now they want to keep our existing zoning in some places and add on hybrid zone, this form-based code in others. It's more about what the buildings look like, how they're shaped, the form of them, rather than the use behind them. And that gets us into a lot of hotbed arguments about how properties are used. For example, alcohol. A lot of people like to go to bars. They don't necessarily like to live next to bars. And I can tell you, as somebody who spent a lot of my time growing up in East Austin and still have one parent there in East Austin, there's been this tremendous expansion of bars into residential areas in East Austin. And so a big concern that a lot of the neighborhoods have is where alcohol use is permitted, the limited parking requirements, because of course having to build parking lots and garages can very much drive up development cost. But proposing a solution that just eliminates parking requirements means that, you know, without a public transportation system that works, you're just going to put a bunch more cars into the neighborhood. You combine that with alcohol, there's a lot of quality of life concerns that come with that. And same with retail and commercial use. There's a lot of ambiguity in the proposed code. So, you know, having a doctor's office that only has a couple of parking spots versus, you know, having a retail shopping area with a limited number of parking spots, depending on the use, those requirements have a varying degree of impact.